Thank you, Steph, for coming on at such short notice.
That's fine. Thank you for having me again.
That's my pleasure. So, you've recently started your own podcast now.
I did. It was very spontaneous.
So what's it called?
The Cherry Bomb Podcast.
Cherry Bomb Podcast. There you go. And just so people who aren't aware of this, just give them a little description about what it's about.
So it'll be about like relationship, heartbreaks, friends, anything that we talk about in a group chat, let's say. And then we're just going to talk about on a podcast. More like advices for like other women or men. Stories, funny ones, what we learned from it, self-improvement, healing, people still going through problems, things like that.
And what made you want to start your own podcast?
I think mainly, I've never thought about having a podcast. It was just like a joke. I thought about it. And then I thought, okay, why not? I think it's like in the past, when a lot of my friends would come and ask me for advice, I wouldn't be the best anyway, but we talk about it. So why not just keep it out as well? So see how it goes. It's just a fun one. So yeah.
No, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, well, you'll be on soon anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
No, I look forward to it and hearing what sort of questions you've got to ask me. That'll be intriguing.
Yeah, be prepared.
Okay, right. So, with part of your podcast, you've mentioned about relationships. So, what do you think there's like do you think there's an anti-dating culture at the moment within 2024? Like, what are your current thoughts on how this current generation is doing with relationships? Because for me, it seems like there is a lack of them. It doesn't seem like people want to get in relationships anymore. Mm-hmm. People are just happy to date around and just sleep with anyone or everyone. So what are your thoughts on how this current generation is doing?
I think it's quite a bit of a mixture. There's a young generation where they don't really care as much relationship like back in the days, or like myself, for example. But I think men, looking at my past, even with the same ages, they really are scared of commitment. There are women as well. However, I don't know as many women as men, for example. So whereas women they've been kind of, I think if you're in an environment of friends where all get into a relationship, women do want to get into a relationship. So they get on with anyone hoping they will get into one and be in commitment, getting married and things like that, having kids. But it's really seeing now is like no one wants to be in a relationship. They really don't want the commitment, the responsibility, what comes with it. Maybe insecurity as well, what they think of themselves, projecting into their own relationship. I think majority of them don't even know what relationship means. So they just get on with anyone that walks.
But with that question, what do you think a relationship means to you? How would you define a relationship?
A relationship is where two people comprehend each other, support each other, whether it really brings the best out of themselves or within themselves, and that two people loving each other, and they can think of the future within themselves in 5 years, 10 years times, and eventually, if they're both interested, getting married, having kids, but that's not where it stops anyway. You just carry on with it. And it's not just that, it's for best friends as well, where they both, if one is down, the other brings themselves up. Trust, loyalty, honesty, communication, the whole spectrum of that.
Okay. You've mentioned comprehension. And for me, when you look at key qualities or the main parts of a relationship, the main aspects and what keep a relationship going, you always hear things about loyalty, like trust, honesty, being on the same wavelength or vibe, having the same interests.
Yeah.
And what keeps that relationship going and what makes it long lasting. For me, communication is a big key part of that. But without that comprehension, it's not going to work, because people can communicate one to one another like we are doing now.
Yeah.
And we can express our feelings about how we feel about the situations we're in, or scenarios, or any challenges that come our way with that. But without that comprehension to understand one another and where we're actually coming from, our point of view, maybe asking questions about why you feel the way you do so you can better understand yourself, it's not going to work. Because if you don't understand one another, fair enough, you're talking to each other, it's great, it's half of it. But if you're not understanding each other, then there's no point. Communication is lost.
Yeah.
You can't have one without the other, I think.
That's the thing. The thing is, there's a difference between understanding and even comprehending. So like, it's like sympathy and empathy. And it is important. Yeah, I understand where you come from. I understand you. But comprehending is almost, in my opinion, action comes into it. So personally, I don't believe people's words. It's like, come on, show me that you understand then. Show me that you do know what I mean with the problems. There's a lot in the relationships, same as like in a friendship as well, but mainly in a relationship to make something work is when you do talk about it and you're not going to have that same conversation again in a week time, in a month's time, couple months time, or years time even, then the only thing is when action comes into it, and that is when comprehension comes in. Okay, cool. This person actually gets it. They've actually doing something about it. And not just that one person, it's both.
Now we talk about the mind, body and spirit being the soul. Do you believe in the concept of soulmates? Because obviously there's so many people out there in the world, like 8 billion nearly. Do you think destiny or fate is for two people to come together forever, you could say?
Yeah.
Because, people go through dating, they have different relationships, they don't work out. Do you think they're just waiting until they find the right person, their soulmate, you could say? Or is it just that two people just on that, they just connect and they're so strong? And even when, you're going to have ups and downs at some point, you're going to have maybe a few arguments, you're not connecting with one another at points. But some people will just give up and go, I can't be asked with this anymore. It's not worth my time or energy.
Yeah.
And they won't necessarily fight for it. They won't fight for their relationship. They'd rather just get, that's not my soulmate. Because we're arguing or fighting or something like that. So I'm going to move on, maybe find someone else, and maybe they're my soulmate.
Yeah.
Same situation happens again. So what do you think about the concept of a soulmate?
I think when I was a lot younger, I would use the term soulmate, because soulmate is someone you try and look out for. But if you get too stuck with that term without knowing the meaning of it, you call anyone anybody, and you realize you're actually changing yourself rather than that you're changing yourself to adapt with that person that you believe that are your soulmate. I think it's more like, what would you define a soulmate?
Is that rhetorical? You're asking?
No, I'm asking.
Well, it's interesting because is there really a definition for soulmate? Is there one definition and one answer for that? And then you could say people have different definitions of it.
Yeah.
For example, when you're dating, when you're younger, like 15, 16, and you're with that person and you're getting on so well, you're like, oh, that's my soulmate. Oh, that's it for me.
Yeah.
No, I can see myself forever with them. But it's only because you and them are connecting at that moment in time.
Yeah.
You're on the same wavelength, your energies are matching at that point, but that's not going to stay. Your energies change, how you feel about life and how you feel about anything can change.
Yeah.
Thoughts and feelings, they come and go. They're not always there to stay.
Yeah. But what would you say? Do you believe in soulmates? And if so, or what do you understand from the soulmate term?
I think it's when you always see the things like two people have half a necklace and they end up managing to find each other at some point in their lives and like, oh, this is it. Like long lost brothers or something like that. But for me, I don't necessarily believe in soulmate because it's, I don't know, maybe because it's used so many times now throughout our society. You could say TV or film or anything like that. It just gets used so much. So the term sort of lost its meaning in a way. But for me, I don't necessarily believe in the term soulmate.
Would you say it's because you've seen so many failed relationships and marriages, and when they don't work out and they stick together just because of a child, for example, or because they've been a long time together because society made it out to be like that, you lose the meaning of soulmate. Me personally, for let's say, like a soulmate is where you just know no matter what arguments you've had, you always find each other. There has been, I know a couple of my friends, they've broken up when they were 15, 16, and they've amicably broken up with each other. And then years later, they found each other again, they connected, they've grown individually, and they call each other, we're soulmates. is one of those terms, the one that got away. Personally, I don't believe in that. If that's the one, you never got them away. But if you know times have passed and at some point you reconnect again, for me, that is a soulmate connection. Not necessarily that you are a soulmate, but there are connections called soulmate.
So what do you attribute to soulmate? What would you define as it? Like, because I'd agree with that. Sometimes you need that time away to maybe work on yourself, to focus on you for a bit, and then they come back in your life.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just, again, if we're going to go into energies now, that's just your energies connecting again, realigning, because you're both on the same sort of wavelength.
Yeah.
And then you just come back into each other's lives naturally.
Yeah.
Which I think that's, for me, is an important part of it as well. Like, I want to get into dating apps in a minute as well, but you're not forcing anything with that person. You're just sort of connecting with one another. No, there's no need to force. You need to like constantly harass them every day, messaging if they don't reply to you, something like that. It's just forming. It just forms naturally, like nature. Yeah, just natural.
It just falls into place. It just happens out of nowhere. It's something that is unpredicted. Something. It's like when people just find each other again. Like for years they haven't seen each other. They just gone to the same concert and they didn't even obviously talk. And they're like, oh, nice to see you again. And then old feelings come again. And you start texting, messaging, and then you like, okay, let's see where this goes. Sometimes, I don't want to say actually the word sometimes, but 50% of the time, it works out great. They're actually better than ever before. Another 50% is actually, this is not going to go well, but at least we've tried. So it's the good and the bad. But it's definitely one of the things, I don't know if I can call it fate or not, but it just falls in. And that's how it should happen anyways. You shouldn't force itself out. You shouldn't try and make it happen. I mean, I've tried to make things happen and it didn't work out anyway. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to back off. Let's see how it goes. And years later, it falls anyway. So yeah, just let it happen. Let it be.
So now, I've got some stats here as well, which I'll go through in a moment, but I'd rather go into this first. Are dating apps good for society?
I've never had experiences myself. I've probably had for a couple of days a dating app, and that's literally maybe a year ago. Never met anyone through that. I didn't even like it. I've never had dating apps before that even. All my friends have had it. They've met, I mean, one of my friends, she's met him through a dating app and they're really great together. They've found their matches, what like interests or same background, anything like that. I've known girls where they've met through and nothing has worked out, where they tried to find potentials, but it didn't just work out. They find out, a few dates later and nothing really clicked and she got really upset. Guys is the same. They meet and like they think, oh yeah, this is it, and it doesn't really work out again. Personally, I mean, if it works for you, that's great, but I don't kind of believe in it. I like to meet a person where I can see their body language when they speak to me. I like face to face. I mean, there's so many different opportunities available. Go networking. Meet someone in a business environment if you wanted to, or go in London. They have these events, which I think it's called Thursday or something, where it's like actually singles go in and meet actually in person, talk to each other, things like that. I mean, I wouldn't say go find someone in a club or bar or something like that, but let's just something where you enjoy yourself, go out there, get yourself out there. So hiding behind a phone or a laptop or computer, go on a dating site, because it's easy. It's very easy just to put yourself out there with a picture, put a bio in. And I get it. You can meet, obviously, internationally, anyone and go and find them and things like that. And I'm not saying dating apps is absolutely the wrong thing to do, but it does come with its very heavy disadvantages as well as advantages, but not something for me.
I think when you look at the term, judge a book by its cover, that is dating apps. Yeah. That is it, because you've got a short little bio to put in and maybe a few pictures. And for some people, it's going to be some people might find it difficult to write a little bio about themselves because it doesn't explain who they fully are. They can't
I think the
express
bio is
themselves.
also with something like what's it called? Cheesy line, pickup line?
Yeah, some people...
Something like that.
And then you'll get people like... And I think the problem with it as well is from what I've seen and stuff like that, you'll get like women. You'll say in their bio, 6 foot lads only, please. And they're like... The lad will be just scrolling through and be like, what? She doesn't even know me. She's going to discredit me because of my height.
Yeah.
When she doesn't actually know me, or she's already judging the book by its cover.
And that's what they're like, yeah.
I think another problem with it as well is it's very easy. You get bored very easily with it.
Oh, I don't know about that, but
Because
I did.
imagine,
but that's, yeah.
But imagine, because I don't know how many people use it, dating apps. You've got so many now.
Yeah.
But it's easy just to swiping your phone, flicking it. You're on to the next one, and you're on to the next one. You don't like how they look, on to the next one. You like how they look, great. They might not like you, on to the next one.
I mean, it's one of the things. I think that's more like Tinder, and I know they've got something that's Bumble. They used to be. I think that's a friends and a dating one as well. People can meet friends, but that's more like. I think Bumble is more like where a woman can actually reach out, which is quite funny because women don't like when a guy approaches them, but then. Women was like, well, with a guy, they're just waiting, and the girls are like, I don't want to approach this because they don't know how to approach them because I think society became so normal that a guy can approach. Like, I particularly never like when a guy approached me because I know when I approach someone because I like them, so I will do it. It's not like I don't like it, like come and talk to me. But whereas, separate away from Bumble, there's Hinge, where when I did have a very short period of time, that app was probably interesting because you can put your interests, what you like, what you don't like, where would you take, like guys would say, like, where would you take, first date? You can kind of get a grasp of it already. And there are filters like, for like women, for example, what kind of height they want. And I get it. I mean, that's one thing I'm going to ask you actually, because you've mentioned women. And they're putting their bio, they only want 6 foot. It's
not all women.
Yeah, I know. I just want to say, because you started with women, what about men when they say, just, brunettes or blondes or like hair? What about the rest of them? Men do the same thing.
Yeah, it definitely works both ways. They'll have their types.
Yeah.
Same with men and women have their types. And without even getting to, you could literally just dye your hair if you were that desperate to find someone.
Yeah.
Or maybe just wear some,
I guess with height
heels or
is
something
a bit
like that.
difficult, yeah.
But there are certain aspects where you just can't change. In particularly, like, you can't really change. I mean, you can if you really wanted to. You change your face or change stuff. But your actual characteristics, your qualities, your skills, you can develop them and improve on them. But at that moment in time when you're meeting someone, that's you. You're giving yourself your raw self. But whereas people now, like with all these dating apps, they don't get to see that. They'll literally see a picture of them. I don't know. Sometimes you get cringy pictures, but
I think it's a term. Like they could just go by the way they look rather than, and then they go all upset. Oh, this person's this and this and that. Well, I'm like,
it brings out that insecurity as well. Because sometimes, I don't know how it works. Maybe I'd imagine more women get more likes than men. Then on dating apps, I think they'd be like, I don't know, 80 lads could be one girl for in particular, like one girl top percentage, something like that. Whereas that one lad may get, I don't know, 1 or 2, something like that, at the top of there. So I think there's a lot more men chasing the higher status women than women chasing the higher status men. And I think with that, it's going to bring out insecurities in people, either side of this, because they're going to see their likes or, I don't know, matches or something like that, see them quite low. And then they'll be like, why is no one liking me? what's wrong with me? Whereas there's nothing wrong with you. It's just you're not finding that person on there. And then you could be the person that goes, I'm just on here for the sake of being on here, just try and find someone. And then you're thinking, am I really going to find the one I want to be with on here? Or should I go out? Which is why I quite like you mentioning about going out to them Thursday socials or something like that. Yeah,
there's a social in London. There's so many different socials out now. Like, I mean, it's like a couple of weeks ago, Revolution did this thing with armbands, like there's single people and there's relationship people and there's single, things like that is out there. I mean, don't get me wrong, please don't go out and get a boyfriend from a club. If it works out, that's absolutely great. But why would you want to meet someone who's intoxicated already? Get someone that's genuine. with the networking, sometimes what happens through work. There's so many ways. Book clubs, if you're interested in book clubs and things like that. There's so many out there. I don't like it when people just go by looks first. And of course, everyone looks great, me personally, but you don't know the characters. Open the book, but you're not going to do that until you meet them. But again, you've already judged by its cover. It's like pretty face, that's it. Pretty face comes, people say, with high privileges, not always.
So when you mentioned before about yourself, or women not approaching men, or men not liking to approach women.
Yeah.
There was some stats I've got here. I can't remember where I seen them. I think I watched them on for a different podcast, but it was saying about how 86% of women want men to make the first move, but 76% of men are scared to make the first move for being seen as creepy.
Yeah.
And then you've got 20% of this is like Gen Z generation or something like that. 20% say a man approaching a woman sometimes or always constitutes harassment. So you've got this weird little paradox here where men aren't approaching women because they're being seen as creepy or something like that, or scared because they don't want to be seen as that. And then you've got women who want men to approach.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck here where it's like, what's going on?
I think it also does depend. Like I've had guys approach me, not in a very nice way. And I'd be very gentle at first anyway. And I mean, if guys do approach me, I'll be like, I will have a conversation. Depends how they start with it. If they say, if they just come and like just talking about something, I'm like, okay, cool, this is fine. Then if they're like, hey, can I get your number or something? I'm like, I'm really sorry. I'm not really interested. And they're like, okay, cool. They move on with their life. I've had guys where they straight away go full on calling me names because their confidence probably got either knocked down or just one way or the other. Sometimes you get the people, they just end up following them, the girls. That is creepy.
Yeah.
And I think because of the stats of the news and things like that, where not all men are like that. There are some men, unfortunately, have made other men look like that, like being creepy and everything. And just go up front. If you're confident, you should be more I think men should be more confident. Even if there's a no, it's all right, it's okay. But I get it. There are women out there who are very, very, very careful. The way they probably approach it, it's not very nice. I get it. But women should also kind of just collect their own, what's it called? Courage. Just go and ask someone out. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? They're going to say no, move on.
I feel like before, you'd never really get women approaching men, maybe. Not as much. Maybe now, I think maybe it's a decline. I guess, yeah, it kind of is a decline now with no one really approaching anyone.
Yeah.
That's why I kind of feel like maybe we were born the wrong generation or wrong year, because it's back in the old days without all this technology conflicting everything or everyone, because no one knows who they want anymore, because they see all these options now. Mm-hmm. Whereas back in, like, I don't know, our parents' day or even before them, if you like someone, you just go up to them and ask them. And if it doesn't work out, you have a bit more confidence back then, because you didn't have maybe realizing, oh shit, there's all these other lads on here as well. I need to be the top dog. Whereas back then, you'd just be like, I like this woman or I like this man. Fuck it, I'm going to go after them.
I think also back then, women also knew how to approach a guy without approaching. And that's another thing. A lot of women, some women that I know, they do that. I mean, I tend to do that in the past. Like if I do like a guy and he's in a group of guys, I'm not just going to walk up and just be like, oh, hey, unless you get a moment. But sometimes you make eye contact. It's anything, body language. And if you would already know, okay, this person likes me as well. And that's when the man, even back in the days, I mean, they just go up and be like, hey, what's going on or whatever. I don't know how it was back then. But nowadays it's just like, can I get you a drink or something like that? But
yeah, now it's just trying to message him over some sort of social media.
Or what's it called? Airdrop.
Yeah. Airdrop him in the club.
Yeah.
But yeah, it goes back to, that's why I think the technology in a way is sort of, it can enhance things maybe for certain people who are a bit of an introvert. They don't like going out maybe. They're a bit scared of like you say with groups. It's a bit hard sometimes for a man or for a woman. It's a bit hard for them to go up and approach them in the club or approach them out in the open somewhere. and try and pull them away from their group. And because in case they get that, that's why I think a lot of people are scared of rejection these days, but it's not, like you say, it's like failing or anything like that. It's not a bad thing. It's only a bad thing if you give up. Like, you don't find the person, they reject you. Okay, fuck it. Move on.
It's not easy. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, it does gives you a bit of a bad taste in your chest. Like, oh,
if it
I'm really
happens so
upset.
many times, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Like, I think then just change up your approach.
But then again, it goes back to some soulmate. Maybe that's just not the one for you. Maybe the one for you is not going to reject you. Or maybe they do it first and then you just got to try again later on down the line.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah.
But, so there is, again, with technology, it can enhance dating for some people and relationships, make it a bit easier for people. But overall, I feel it is a bit of a negative because you're just missing that connection with that person where you can actually approach them, get a feel of their energy and their vibe. You can't really do that, especially with, like, I know you got to have a bit of small talk maybe at the start, but when you're straight into that conversation with someone in person, it's just so much easier to just go diving deep straight into the
it's
deep
had something
end.
before when you're just chatting with them for a while. Don't get me wrong, like, it's not like they're going to go jump straight away next day, they're going to see each other. I mean, some people do, but I think it's nice when like some conversations I've had with my friends where they just text each other, get to know each other. And if they have a good feeling about it, then they make a date out of it. And then obviously the same feeling that you texting them, they might not be great in the first date, talking like that face to face, but let's say that's when they do a second date and then they kind of just hit off from there on. If you still feel the same connection, fair play. I mean, okay, cool, that's fine. But it's not always the case. I think it's one of those things. Definitely talk first over the app, get the grasp of it, get some interest. And if you already know what you want in the future, let's say, I know girls, they want a marriage, they want to have a kid and all that kind of stuff. And you don't ask that in the beginning, and then down the line, you're in a relationship and the guy's like, I never want to get married. And you're like, oh, but it's a deal breaker for me. Do it from the get-go.
Going back to relationships now and not the dating side of things.
Yeah.
What are some signs, or what do you think are some signs of an unhealthy relationship?
Lying, assumptions very badly. I think there's loads. It's
Go on.
I think it's something like when a person's upset, you're ignoring them. Obviously, domestic abuse, manipulation, being a narcissist. Oh God. It's not communicating, big factor. Cheating, that's already, and then thinking it's okay and carry on with that. Being dishonest. Just also trying to have them in control as well.
And now, are any of these things you can fix, or is that it for the person on the other side of this?
I think if you've had
some
already,
things you can't fix.
No,
you can
cannot
forgive.
fix. Sorry, broken.
Move on and learn from it, but is that going to then stay? Is that...
It's always going to... Don't get me wrong, there are situations where if any of that happens and they've had a full conversation about this is not going to happen again, let's work on it. But it can't be just that one person working on it. It has to be both of them to work on it. One person to forgive and forget, actually do the forgive and forget, not just forgive and then you can't forget about it. It's going to come back up. Always going to come back up like a seed. And yeah, it's basically if one guy or the girl has already put the seed in and done something, either lied about, depending on the lie, cheated, that's already big. For me, it's like, no, move on. Don't ever do that again. I've been there before, done it, never again. Doesn't mean I've cheated. No, I've got cheated on. Just to clarify. And the other thing is like, being a narcissist is something, I think it's a very, being blindsided. You never know if this person is a narcissist or not. Down the line, you obviously see the flags and things like that. And even if you speak to them about it, of course, a narcissist is not going to know they're a narcissist. They get very defensive unless they actually see within themselves. It can be fixed. You can work on yourself, but that's not going to be happening something with two people are together. Abuse, I mean, that is already something. Don't stick in something like that. Emotionally or physically get out of it. It's not so, and I know it's very, very difficult, but if you've got a little bit still of respect for yourself, take it and move on. So it's a really hard one where some can be fixed, but it really, really depends. People can love each other, but it doesn't mean they're in love anymore with each other. So it's just, don't do it just because you love the person.
Well, I was going to say, is love enough to keep a relationship going?
No, there's so much more that the relationship still needs. So if that mistake has already taken over the whole relationship, it's best to just pick the pieces up. Don't even pick the pieces up. Leave it and just go and work on yourself, think for yourself, and just forgive yourself that you've got yourself in that kind of a situation that you didn't even create. They've put you into that situation. So it's not worth it. Don't do something after 5 years or 3 years and then thinking that, oh, the next man is going to be the same. That thought, you need to forgive yourself and then be like, no, I know if I'm good to myself, I know a good person will come along.
Sticking with the unhealthy thing. Well, I might say this, actually, I'll say this first and I can ask you this. So I think a lot of people in relationships or when people are dating, they always see things as, 50-50. That's what a relationship should be, 50-50. And he's like, but when you actually look at it, it should be 100-100. It shouldn't be 50-50. You should both be all in.
Yeah.
So if you're not all in, you might as well end it there. Because if you're not putting all of your energy into this, all your effort into this, and if a person is, it's not going to work.
No.
It's never going to work.
No.
And sometimes there may be days where you don't feel 100 and you're given 80. But even if you're still putting all your effort and you may still be at 80, that is 100% still.
Exactly.
You've got to put it all in, all or nothing, as they say. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. You need to be both in it to win it, as people say.
Yeah.
But you need 100% both from both sides. Otherwise, it's just going to end. And it's not going to end in a nice way, most likely.
No, you lose yourself. I mean, situation where I've been before where, you get back with one of your previous partners and they're not putting their 100. They're not even putting their any percentage in. They think, or they keep saying they've tried. You pick up their 100% to put it in, you lose yourself. You just don't even love yourself anymore. I think that is the worst that can happen from a relationship. No relationship is worth your own mental health and your love for yourself.
Now, this is what I was going to ask you before I just put it on and said that. So I talked about unhealthy relationships. In the dating aspect, what would you consider red flags in the dating before? So obviously you're getting together and actually knowing them fully. From what would you consider are red flags in dating?
That they cheated on their ex, using their mental health as an excuse. I think fair play if anyone has changed, but that is an absolute red flag, saying that they weren't in a great state and they did that. Or I think when they say, me personally, they don't want to get married. I think another thing is probably they don't like to do house chores. I think I'll be very worried. I haven't dated a lot of people, so I wouldn't, this isn't me personally when I have and found out and stuff. So I think I wouldn't, I'm not sure. I think if they maybe, I'm not gonna lie, if they lied about the height, I mean, it's not like I don't care about the height, but if they tell me they're...
Fair enough if it's 1 inch or something like that, maybe.
If they obviously say they, I don't know, 6'5" and they come and they're like, just, I'm wearing my heels and they're the same height as me, I'll be like, something's wrong. Why did you lie about that? It's not a red flag, but I'll be like, if you lie about this, what else is gonna come? So yeah, what do you think?
The height thing's interesting. Yeah, I think for me, I don't know, you always hear different things from different people. I guess there's no set red flags in a way. The lying aspect, yeah, I think you can sort of tell if you're dating someone, seeing someone for a little while, you can sort of pick up on whether or not they're going to be lying. They're lying about certain things. But me, I think more so, because if you're seeing someone, dating someone, it's the effort they put in as well. Like sometimes you be messaging them, I don't know, maybe you start every day messaging them, saying, how are you, stuff like that, etc. And there's nothing back. It's just them always talking about themselves in a way. There's no interest in you. Maybe they're just seeing you because they feel lonely. Maybe they just want someone, I don't know, someone to talk to in a way and just get
Funny
everything
that
off
you
their
say
chest.
that. There was at one point this guy just tried dating just for the looks. That's it. Like just to kind of show off the guys. For example, one of my friends, she only wanted to date this guy because he looks great, but on paper he was nothing for her. Which I felt sorry for the guy because he really tried with her. So it's just one of those things. Or there was this one story where my friend told me, which absolutely was hilarious for a guy. Anyway, he tried to see this girl, and she no idea what her backstory was, but she said they were going to meet up in a fancy restaurant, and she didn't want to take the bus. So she asked him for money. Hey, can you send money and I can order Uber? So he was like, well, I can order the Uber for you. He's like, no, just send me the money. Now I can order the Uber. And he was like, and he called me. He's like, should I do that? I'm like, well, you offered to order the Uber for her anyway. Why would she need the money for it? There's something off there. So he was like, yeah, I'm just gonna, just say no then. And she was like, okay, well, I'm wearing a really nice dress. That's why. And he's like, well, I just told you I can order the Uber for you. I'd rather do that than give you money, because we all knew what he wanted to do in the end anyway. But still, I was like, oh, that's quite funny. It's like paying to get the service that you're not going to get it anyway. So, yeah, I think that's a red flag quite a bit. Asking for money before even having the first date.
Wow. Just going to take the money and ditch sort of thing, it seems like.
Yeah.
Doesn't actually care about the dress.
I mean, I'm pretty sure
Probably
like
joggers.
he even said like it was only like a £10. So I'm like, oh, okay. How much did you want? It's like, well, do you want 20 quid? And I was like, oh, that's a bit weird.
Oh, I might ask you this actually. I don't think personally, for me, it's not a deal breaker or anything like that. But you always hear it being thrown around. Who should pay for dinner on the first date?
Doesn't matter. Does it really matter much?
Well, people always say, like, I've seen quite a few things, which I think I like this one the best. No, you hear a lot of like, I guess you hear it from women more so. Not every woman, let's be clear.
I know.
Not every woman. If you ask them that question, it's always the man should pay. The man should pay.
Yeah.
I'm his woman. He's paying.
Yeah.
And for me, I've seen something, and I completely agree with it. It's whoever asked who out on the date, which I think's fair. But again, the red flag here, it could be the other person doesn't even offer.
Yeah.
No matter who it is, the other person, I don't know, say went out, I asked you, and then I just pay. Just go, here we go, I'll pay. And you don't even offer. Don't even say, are you sure? No, I can chip in a little bit. And the woman just sort of goes, yeah, fucking right, you pay. Even if you took me out,
yeah,
and then you're like just waiting, but you're just waiting for me to look at the bill and just go, well, what are you doing? Hurry up then. It's like that. So I really like the fact that, whoever takes who out, they should be the one paying. But the other person should at least offer or chip in or something like that. Or even insist on paying.
yeah.
But if you just got a person who just sort of expects it, they just sort of expect things from the other person. It's going to be applied not just to date, just for dinner, but just expecting the other person to do everything.
That's quite bad. Yeah, it's basically they want to take. Yeah, it's one of those things. Are we talking like just a dating or relationship?
This can be applied to both now, but I think if you're sort of seeing it in a dating stage, I don't think it should go to a relationship. I think it should you should see it and be like, nah, fuck this, I'm gonna be broke.
I think dating wise, personally, it really depends, because I know like girls like me who've been very independent. Like I come from a past where guys get so comfortable, or they have money issues or financially no money or anything like that. But I want to go out. So I'm obviously taking them out. And obviously I do come from a household where I'm very independent. I can make my own money, so I'll pay for it. But then I also had the common sense like, okay, I asked the person out, so I'm going to pay for both. So obviously I know we have conversations where, but this is even, okay, I've never done this actually in a dating. It'll be more like in a relationship. But over the years, I kind of realized okay, they're a bit too comfortable. They're not even asking me once out. I'm the only one taking myself out and paying for two people. Where it's obviously gets a bit bad taste. Like in a relationship, you should really still ask the girl out. Like, come on, let's go on a date. Even if, let's say, the guy asks or the girl asks, regardless, of course, it's something attractive when the man pays for it. Don't take me wrong. I'm like a woman to like anyone else. But if the bill is a bit high up, or you both are talking about your financial situation and you're like, you know what, we haven't really got the money. But then with the girl or the man says, okay, well, listen, we can go half and half and we can make it work. Please do it. Like, I'm like, okay, just get out of it. Just do something, or go and buy the groceries and cook something together. But if a girl wants to go out
the
and
girl
then
gets a steak and the man just gets a salad.
no, just half the steak. It's all right. Just leave the woman the fries. It's all right. Like it's one of those. I think when a girl just expects the man to pay, go make your own money. Like I'm a very big advocate where women really should have their own money to pay for their own meal, but a man really shouldn't just sit there and just not do anything about it. It'd be like, okay, even if let's say they had a communication before, or if without having a communication, if let's say the woman does pay for the meal, but they're going somewhere else afterwards, the guy should pay for the rest of it. It's one of those things. So like, okay, you paid for lunch, I pay for dinner. It's all right, cool. And even if they're not, if it's kind of mentally you're making kind of a maths, okay, he did cover quite a bit of that. Of course I can do this as well. But that aspect is for me more in a relationship. In a dating side, if the guy obviously asks the girl out, the girl should still say, we're only dating, let's go half and half. But if the guy insists on paying, saying, no, I'm paying for this, let him be the man. Like, a man is still a man. He's still, in every single man, there is a little bit of a characteristic of him being an alpha and a male and being masculine, obviously. And a woman should still be, woman, her feminine side coming out. But that does not mean he has to cover everything. It really depends. But it's an interesting concept just to see financial aspect on the first 3 dates, in my opinion. If he covers the first date, what's going to happen? What kind of a date is going to be the second one? Is he also going to pay, or are they going to chip in maybe? That's where you really should look into. But yeah, that's funny.
And just another question on relationships now. I guess I say more so applies to relationships and the dating side of it. How important is it still to spend time by yourself, have that you time?
I think it's
because there's a funny thing I see. I don't know if you've ever seen the TV show How I Met Your Mother.
Not all of it.
But there's a part in it where Marshall and I can't remember the wife's name now. That's interesting. It might come back to me in a minute.
Yeah.
But yeah, my husband and wife, they're in the kitchen cooking, making something. I don't know what it was. And the wife goes, so they're in the kitchen, just to be clear.
Yeah, okay.
And the wife goes, I need some more eggs. And the husband goes, I'll come with you. And he walks behind her to the fridge to go and get the eggs with her. Like, just literally, the fridge will be over there, has to walk together to go and get the eggs because he can't be without her. And even when someone has ice cream, the other one will be like, my stomach doesn't feel good. And the other one goes, sorry, I had some ice cream earlier. I know we're lactose intolerant. We are lactose intolerant. Not just you, we are. So how important is it to still have that independency and have that time for you to go and do what you want? It doesn't have to just be, I don't know, you need to spend time alone in the room or different room with them, but to go out and do the things you want to do.
I think it's still very important. I mean, it's really cute, obviously, when people are doing together and things like that. I think it depends on those two people, how comfortable they are within each other's space. But I think it's still important to have their own individual space. I mean, I wouldn't want my partner to just come to the bloody fridge and just behind me. I'll be like, get out of my way. So it's the same thing. Like, obviously, let's say I'm cooking. I like my space. Unless I do like sometimes cooking together, obviously, like with my partners. But
not needing to go to the fridge together.
No, definitely not. But I think it's still important if, let's say, the guy wants to work out, just leave him. Yeah, just peek through the door, but it's okay. Just give them each other space. Otherwise, it's too much.
Yeah.
There's nothing interesting to talk about otherwise. Like, I go do something, I did cook something or anything. Because sometimes, you know, you go and have a conversation, but it's still important to have each other's little spaces like that. So that's that's funny.
I remember the name. It was Lily, by the way.
Oh.
It popped up to me just then. But I think it's good because you're in a relationship with someone. You're a team.
Yeah.
You're in it to win it, but you're still your own individual.
Yeah.
You still have stuff that you need to focus on. You still could be working on yourself and wanting to do things for self-growth and self-development. So you can't always just be focusing on the other person, what they're doing, to be with them the entire time. Just be following them wherever they're going or whatever they're doing. You still need that time to grow within yourself. Maybe go off and do the things you need to do. Fair enough. Like, obviously not going traveling for like 6 months without them. That's a bit weird.
No.
But it's just still, if you need to go out, go to the gym by yourself or go and do some activities by yourself, you should still be allowed to do that with the other person. No, okay, yeah, you need that time to go and do you and focus on you right now.
Yeah.
But I'm still here if you need me. If you want me to come, you don't feel comfortable going your own this time, I'm still there if you want me to come.
Exactly. I think especially very important when you live together. I think when you don't live together, of course, like you
already
kind of
have
be on
that
each
space.
other. Yeah, you have that space. I think when you do live together, I think it's still nice to have your partner around. But if, let's say, myself, I love cooking or like having a bath, I don't want them just to sit there. First of all, I can hear them breathing. Get out of my sight. But sometimes it's nice when just individually in each other's room. So, because I don't know, I'm a bit, obviously, I'm not going to say attached, but I'm like, okay, well, I'm done now, 5 minutes. I'm okay, hi. It's one of those things.
So what's, for someone dating now, a bit of a younger generation, what's one bit of advice you'd give them that you think would help them throughout the dating world, you could say?
Get your own priorities straight, what you want out of your relationship, and stick to that list. And if no man ticks those boxes, or woman, they're not yours. You should not, it's not adjust, I can't think of the word, but like change yourself to fit in their boxes. Make sure you get the person that fits in your box and you'll be happy. Finally. Definitely. So that's probably one of my biggest advice I've been giving everyone.
Yeah. Now, I mentioned this before, we were going to talk a little bit about this because I think it kind of, we're going to link it in a way. Talk about AI, it's artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, AI or artificial intelligence is basically where a machine, in particular a computer program, is able to perform human-like tasks. This could be reasoning, critical thinking, or solving problems, for example. And I think when we were talking about earlier with technology and dating, any person on their own now who's single, been single for quite a while and lonely, they could probably end up at this sort of day and age now or in the future, just end up dating AI. Because they wouldn't, even if they, because I know, we're talking about how people just sort of spend time just getting catfish, for example. They just spend the whole time talking to them through a computer, through dating apps or something like that. I know you've got them programs where you've got the catfish programs, I can't remember what they're called.
Yeah, I think it's called catfish.
But where they go out and get people to hire people and they go and find the person, you're talking to a woman, but actually it's like a 40-year-old man or like complete opposite. So I think there's going to be a point in where people are starting to date online, seeing one another, and they're not even realizing it's just AI. They could spend, I don't know, a lot of their time, maybe even a year, just talking to them because they're lonely. They've not been out. They don't feel comfortable. They're introvert. They don't want to go out, but they're happy to just talk to someone. They found someone that can talk to them. But at the end of the day, it's just a computer. And this is where I wanted to get into with what do you feel are the dangers with AI? But first, actually, before we get into that, what's your experience with AI been like?
I've not had any bad experiences, let's just say that. But I do find the AI world quite interesting, where I do want to learn a lot about it. I want to know everything about it, to be honest, because I want to have control over that is potentially going to take over whole humanity. And it's got huge power, and if you've got that in your hand, you can control yourself. But knowing what they're going to take over is very dangerous. I mean, one of the things that we've said before is like Tesla. The other things like now is a lot of things coming out, part of military. There's even things out where it can control our minds and emotions. One of the main things is advantages using in businesses. Like, for example, mine is heavily involved with ChatGPT, for example. But a lot of people, if you're going to use any AI tools, learn about the tools first, how you can use it to your own benefit. So that is how I use my tools, to my own benefit of, let's say, emails or deciphering certain emails or even translations. And then do you take that as a lesson for yourself? You're lecturing yourself how to do it and amend those, let's say, emails. Or there's a lot of things you can do. AI will do your own CV, but do not take exactly like that, because you can tell it's made with a robot. It has got no emotions. However, if you can ask ChatGPT to put some emotions into it, it's amazing how it actually does it. People have been using it as counseling sessions now. It speaks to them and it gives advice back. So it's one of those things where people rather do that with a GPT rather than with an actual person that actually has emotions, who can see your face as well. And I'm pretty sure there is something with an AI. I think another thing which I'm not so surprised, I mean, majority of news are fake already, but it's the fact that now AI is getting involved, where
anything can be put out there now with news.
Literally everything is already out now. I mean, wars, or if someone does it or anything, they put faces that don't even exist or someone else's face into it, make it absolutely truth, and you're done for.
That's the problem. So it could even do for you, for example, saying something completely racist.
Yeah.
That you've not even said.
It's the same thing, voices as well now. Yeah. Or they're using, I think it's a celebrity thing where they, there's, they can use the languages. AI. Yeah. Those kind of things. Oh, they use, let's just say, Justin Bieber's voice, and they make a absolutely different song. And I'm just like thinking, I don't want anybody to use my voice and make something out of that. There is absolutely things like that out there. A lot of people don't even realize. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, but if you live in this world, learn about it. I don't care if you're not interested or not, but you'll sit there and then you will march around and saying, I'm against AI. I'm like, learn about it first and then actually come up with what you're actually against it. Because everything is taken. I mean, phones, for example, they're all listening regardless. You go up and let's just say we're talking about Jordans or Vans. Best believe in like half an hour you go on your phone and you will see all those. I mean, I'm like thinking, did it even have my permission? I don't think so. So it's a very scary part where it will take over quite a bit, especially if it comes to military things. I think I've read an article where a lot of, conspiracy and stuff like that, where if something happens, even as an accident or something wrong goes, that this AI machine can set it off without even having the validation of a human.
Well, this is what I was going to say. If AI, because I've seen it with chess, it's been playing with chess and it broke someone's arm by accidentally grabbing them or something like that. But the arm snapped from the AI. It was just a hand, I think it was, the AI machine. It wasn't a full-on like robot.
Yeah.
But if AI injures or kills someone, who is then responsible? Is it... who's to blame? The manufacturer, the people who created it, the owner, or is it AI itself?
I think there's quite a few people involved into that.
Because, like we're saying about Tesla and stuff like that with AI cars now, and you look over at China, what they're doing, like social credit system, you speak out about the government, in an instant, credit cards or debit cards no longer in use. You can't use them. You can't get a train ticket. You can't buy anything. Mm-hmm. And all that has to happen is if you say something bad, this could easily happen down the line. Mm-hmm. If you have it, especially like electric cars with AI in them now, or they could literally just do, okay, we've seen, because again, with Elon Musk, not too big of a fan when you look at with him. I don't know. It's just with everything that he does now, like controlling the cars. He has social media now. Mm-hmm. He also has Starlink, so Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
So, but if, say for example, whoever he works with his agenda, for example, their agenda, if you're putting something out there on Twitter, this could be later down the line. All you have to do is watch 1984, George Orwell, and see what happens in that. But you see that if you say something bad about the agendas that they're going for, in an instant, they can say, you know what? No, he's just going to and from work. Let's just change the mileage on his car. Let's just change the system so it only takes him to work and from work. He can't go anywhere else in the car. And it's that easy to do. Even now, they can easily do that if they wanted to. I think, I don't know when it was, maybe a few years ago now, there's like a hurricane or something like that in America, and they gave the Tesla cars like an extra mileage on there. Just upload it, just extra mileage on the cars, just so they can get out of where they were. So if they can add mileage onto it, I'm sure there's no problem in decreasing that or making it, controlling it. Or just like, I remember seeing before, again, a little bit of like conspiracy per se, but with a Doctor Who episode, this is ages ago now, I can't remember who was Doctor Who at the time, but they had these sat-navs in the cars, including government military cars. There were literally majority of them. And at one point they were trying to kill Doctor Who. And they were driving to where they needed to go, and the car just was then turned on, and they tried to drive him into the river and drown him. And they couldn't get out because it was all locked, everything like that. And at some point, the car was able to release carbon dioxide into the car and just try and kill them with the gas. So all these things are now becoming what we're seeing as just, imagination, fairy tales or whatever, just are now becoming reality.
Yeah.
There's so many dangers now, like you say, military stuff. If AI gets put into like missiles or anything like that, so they can go wherever they need to go also, like automatically, without someone needing to steer it or anything like control it.
Even validating it, to give it a tick sign. AI, I think, is going to be so, what's it called, like set up if, I don't know, is it Detroit where people are not allowed to go or something? Not Detroit. It was something with D. It's a place where no one is actually allowed to go in there, and even if they do, they get shot at. Our feeling, well, what if like something like that, obviously they decide, okay, we don't need people, we're just going to have these AI machines around. If something does cross the border, automatically go off. Like they just shoot them, kill them straight away. What if something like that they would use in, they have these wars going on and they've got something like that, and what if just a mistake happened, something didn't happen or something didn't get turned off? Let's say there's no war, but it didn't get turned off and then it just walks past and starts people because they don't need a tick from a human to say, okay, let's go. No.
Well, if it gets to the point where you can't even turn it off, it just turns itself back on.
Exactly.
And, talking about films and stuff like that and TV shows, one thing in particular, like you see Terminator, stuff like that, with AI, but in particular for me, it was with Marvel, Ultron.
Yeah.
It always seems to be, even just with other films as well, it always seems to be AI thinks humanity are a problem, a disease, a virus within this world. And kind of in some points, we see how much humans have done to this earth, this planet. It's fucking awful. Like really, all the wars, the extinction of other animals, destroying, deforestation, everything like that. Do you think these aren't just films and the actual subliminal messaging that AI could be the end of humanity?
I think it's two ways. Either could be the end or the beginning. Regardless, it really depends how far they're going to take AI, in my opinion. I mean, I think we're going to be getting stuck in a box, not knowing what is even true out there. What if something is going to come, they're going to create what we think it's a house, but it's actually not a house. I mean, it's interesting with the Elon Musk. I've read something where he's actually also so much against the AI, but I'm like, but he's got Tesla and he's created all so much. But in fact, he's actually that highly invested into the AI because he wants to have control over it. He's co-founded, I think it's OpenAI, back some time ago.
So years ago, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, it was years ago, but he actually then stepped down of it back in 2018, I think it was, because I think that's when Starlink came out. And everything, but he's always warned other people. I mean, Stephen Hawking did the same thing. It's like how AI is obviously replacing everything and things like that. But there's the same people who've also said, learn about it, learn about these new tools that's coming into the world. Don't be so naive and get stuck into something that you feel like okay, I just need to know how to go to work and back. No, there's so much more into it where, yes, don't believe what the news say, but at least learn what is coming out. That is definitely important. But it's definitely either it's going to be the end of nature, I feel like, but a beginning of new technology. And I'm not sure how everything is going to be. I feel like we're not going to even have doors. We're going to have probably watches where the door just opens up and you just go for everything's too easy. So everyone's going to be lazy. People are going to be lazy. There will be something where you're just stuck inside the house and using machines, how to lose weight or be healthy and things like that. Yeah, let's just hope that's not the case.
It's funny with there's a few other things I want to say, but with Neuralinks, it always reminds me of with Elon and Neuralink getting like a chip in your brain.
Yeah, I've heard that years ago. People have been talking about it. I think it's part of Black Mirror as well. There was an episode.
I was going to say, it always reminds me of Star Wars because the clones, again, it's not really a spoiler. If you haven't seen Star Wars by now, it's kind of on you. But with the clones in there, they have a chip put in their brain. And it's, in the third one where they start killing all the Jedi.
Yeah.
Execute Order 66. That chip in their brain is what's enabled them to do that, to just automatically go on, follow the orders. They have no, I guess they're not independent. They're always dependent. They have always a master or something like that. But the point is that chip, someone, the Emperor Palpatine, Senator, he was the one who enabled it. Said, okay, at my command, you're doing this. You're going to kill all Jedi. It's part of my plan. It's part of my agenda. And just as easily, again, we talk about being in films or a TV show, but it could just as easily be reality now with Elon Musk and whoever he works with. At one point, that chip in their brain, that Neuralink, can go, okay, fuck it. Let's go off and do this. Let's kill someone. Let's go and do this. Let's make you depressed. Let's make you miserable. Let's make you just follow whatever we're doing. Let's make you follow it out. Because even when we watch, even with Kingsman, the first one, with the phones and the Sims in there, putting out that frequency that makes people violent, that starts killing everyone. These things are easily
I think that was very interesting with Kingsman because frequencies already, it does a lot music-wise. Yeah. So imagine having that kind of frequency over and over and over. So, yeah.
And it just has to be put in, that chip can be putting out the same frequency.
For a phone.
For anything.
Oh, any electronics.
Yeah, the phones now we use, it's just so easily done.
Guess with the new phones plausible. Coming out.
And, going back to a little bit with AI, because we mentioned about, it eventually having emotions and, not being able to distinguish between what is a human, who's a human and who's AI. And mentioned to you before about the Turing test from Alan Turing.
Yeah.
It used to be initially called the imitation game. And it's basically where, for those who don't know, there'll be one person and a screen and there'll be a computer and another person. And what that person who has to do, person A, will say person A, computer is B and other person is C. But person A will have to distinguish which one is a human and which one's the computer, by asking a series of questions. Not able to see them, obviously, because they'll just ruin the whole thing. Have to ask them a series of questions to then distinguish based on their answers, which is which. And back then, 100%, you'd probably be able to tell which is which. But now, and more likely in the future, we're going to have no fucking clue.
No.
Because it's going to get to that point where, talking about dating with people who are single or lonely, they're not even going to know. It's just going to get to that point where we're not going to be able to distinguish between what is AI and who is a person, which is
I think it's quite funny. I've heard, I think someone say that they're even using ChatGPT responses to their dating. Yeah, if they don't know what to say back. So they're like, this girl just sent me this paragraph. Can you decipher and what I'm understanding of this and what should I reply to this person back? And obviously it gives it back and they just copy and paste it.
But it's a problem because it's becoming it's getting rid of, in a way, creativity for people. Yeah. Looking at the younger generation now going to school, I guess they're a lot more wise, or I don't want to use the word wise, it's not, but they're a lot more accustomed to technology now. They're more used
iPads
to it.
Everywhere.
Yeah, phones, iPads are 4 years old or whatever.
Yeah.
But now when you see them at primary school, more so secondary school, if they've got homework or they've got essays they need to write.
Everything electronic.
It's nothing. They're not doing any of it now. Just go on a chat GPT or whatever.
Yeah, they can actually
and just do it
a whole
for them.
essay. Probably their, I don't want to give it away, but their dissertation theses and things like that. I mean, yeah, ChatGPT.
Yeah, even uni
but
now.
That's the thing. Like, either it destroys creativity or you can use it to make it better.
I think if it does other things for you, like, again, if it does all the menial jobs, stuff like that, like computer-based jobs or like, I don't know, tech companies or something like that, way customer service-wise, it can be good because then you, I think, given, again, well, I'll say this in a moment actually, but again, it gives you that opportunity to then have that free time to then say, what do I want to do with this time now? Do I want to start painting? Do I want to start poetry? Do I want to start writing a book, a novel? I can do whatever I want now with this time, but it's then up to you what you want to do with that time now. Or if you're just going to sit around, binge watch a load of series or films or just, or just, you got nothing to do now, you might just get comfort, eat a load of crap as well and just sit and watch and do nothing, get fat. Like you see on like, if you've ever seen Where's Wally?
No.
That show, the film, sorry.
No, I only know the book.
But like, eventually, again, I can't remember the full ins and outs of it, but humanity's it's up in like space now, like like a spaceship or something like that. But it's what you mentioned before about screens. They're literally on a hover seat, going around the whole of the spaceship and whatever, just with a screen in front of them, eating a load of shit, and they're all fat. Because that's what they've done. Now technology's taken over. They're like, shit, I don't need to worry about anything.
Yeah.
And they forget to worry about their own health. And they end up just getting fat, obese, and just not giving a fuck about anything.
Yeah.
So, like I say, it could be good for you or it could be bad for you. It just depends what you do with it. But then you got to think as well, if it takes over with everything, how are people going to live financially? Because they're going to not have any jobs. Their job has been taken over. Should that be for everyone now? Should they get a universal pay where everyone gets something? It's like, where do we draw the line?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I don't think so. I mean, I don't think AI can take over police, doctors, firemen, and all that kind of stuff. Labor work.
Well, you see, RoboCop, is it? Is that?
Yeah.
I think that's the one where, like, I don't know, or like iRobot.
iRobot, yeah.
Like, you don't need police now.
Oh,
like,
right. If you have things like that,
you don't
I guess,
need. It's gonna get to that point maybe
probably,
where obviously not. Maybe years down. This be years down the line, but it could get to that point where we're not needed for anything.
I think certain jobs most likely will be replaced with AI, but at the same time, I don't think everything. I think they will still keep like maybe 50-50 or 60-40. I'm not so sure, but I doubt it will get that far. It would look like iRobot. I mean, even if I don't think I'll be alive by then. So
No, I wouldn't want to be either. No, fair enough. If I could just sit around, just do what I want, or just do this, for example. But it may get to the point where AI is so creative now. They have their own bloody podcasts. It's like, it's like they're just interviewing other AIs.
Yeah.
If you get to that point, and we're just like, and we're the ones that end up watching them.
Yeah.
Like, it could become meaningless, but that's why I think it's good to find someone you want to go after as well, and preferably something that AI can't do. So that's why I think we've got to have that creativity still, even if you're still young now. Don't just rely on like AI, Chat GPT, or whatever it's called. Just,
books are going to get distinct.
Yeah, books are as
Dictionaries, things like that, because you can just go.
It's like what's left
online, just find all of it. But it's very, very new still, ChatGPT. But I know it will get so advantaged that it knows everything. Like right now, like ChatGPT, for example, it can't like decipher a whole website and create you a summary. But I mean, there is apps now or website, like where you can just put a YouTube video in and just summarize the whole thing without having to watch it. But even then, for my work, I've kind of like experimented it where I've watched the video and then to summarize, it misses out quite a bit of stuff. So never use it as a last resort or something. Use it wisely by watching it and do something with it. If you're going to waste it saves your time, but at the same time, it wastes your potential as well.
Just like you say, it makes you lazy
at
the end of the day, but it can make you lazy just depending on how you're going to use it. So it's entirely up to the person, how they want to use it, but just don't lose yourself in that process.
Exactly.
Because, think about how much potential you have, we're like top of the food chain, like humans top of the food chain. We can go out and do whatever we want, do whatever you want. Are you going to do it yourself, or are you going to rely on some machine to do it for you and then lose yourself along the way? Now, I know it's been this is quite a bit sad thing, a little bit in a way. So I want to end on something a bit positive. My last question for you. And when we talk about people or a person, when they talk about themselves, a lot of the time they associate physical attributes with that, saying, I'm 6 foot, or no, my skin, like olive skin, or whatever you want to say. I'm nearly bald. Brown eyes, whatever. But that's not really who they are. That's just their physical attributes. And that can all be changed if they really wanted to. So I wanted to ask you, who is Stephanie?
Who's Stephanie?
Who are you?
Who am I?
When someone says, who is Steph? Who is Stephanie? What would they need to know? Or what can they find out?
I'm a whirlwind.
A whole whirlwind.
Yeah.
Go
whole
on.
roller coaster. I don't think I'm down for too long. I just pick myself very quickly up, or the energy around me, whoever is with me. I'm just, okay, cool. I'm very spontaneous. I mean, spontaneously, I'm starting a podcast out of nowhere. Although I did get inspired, so let's just say that. So I'm never the same every day. It's always something different, which I like to keep it that way. I do things all at once, which I have been told not to do it. So I do crash very quickly, but very quickly I pick myself up as well. So as I said, I'm more like, some of my friends say I'm a hurricane. It's just, I just don't like sitting in peace. It's like I want problems, but the good ways. So yeah, I'm always a bit bubbly. Okay.
Thank you. And just for one last time, what is the name of your podcast again?
The Cherry Bomb Podcast.
Okay, the Cherry Bomb Podcast. It's coming very soon. Where else can they find you if they want to see your other work? Because I know you've got a few other things, like your poetic side.
Yeah, I've got a poetry page called Poetic Nina. So yeah, that's where I write my own poems and quotes, motivations for women who've gone through very hard times. So it's almost like my own journal anyway. It's kind of, you can see on my pictures of very like black and white and dark, and then slowly coming colours.
And for those who didn't catch that, all of this will be on the description as well once this is released, so you can find all of her there. But for now, thank you, Steph.
Thank you.